Hello and welcome to Everyone Dies. It's often said that change starts with one person, and when it comes to taking a break from alcohol, that's usually how it begins. Not with a big declaration, but with a pause, a decision to notice how you feel, how you cope, and what changes when alcohol isn't a part of the picture. Today we're talking about where that idea grew into something bigger, and what the research tells us about why a break from alcohol can improve our quality of life. So relax and settle in for our podcast about serious illness, dying, death, and bereavement. Because even though everyone dies, no one has to face it unprepared. I'm Mary Ann Matzo, a nurse practitioner, and I use my experience from working as a nurse for 47 years to help answer your questions about what happens at the end of life.
And I'm Charlie Navarrete, an actor in New York City, and here to offer an every-person viewpoint to our podcast. We're both here because we believe that the more you know, the better prepared you are to make difficult decisions. Additionally, remember, this podcast does not provide medical nor legal advice. Please listen to the complete disclosure at the end of the recording.
In the first half, Charlie continues his series about advice from 90-year-olds on longevity and living well, and has our recipe of the week. In the second half, we're exploring dry January, alcohol reduction, health benefits, and what helps when you step away from drinking. In our third half, Charlie has a quote from author Jody Picoult. Hi, Charles.
Hello. How are you?
Living the dream.
Aren't we all? Well, I guess not. Thank you very much for that commentary. No,
tell me.
Well, okay. So I saw this movie last week. It's called Eternity. I don't think it's across the country yet, but I recommend this bad boy. It's basically a woman's husband is, starts in World War II. A woman's husband is killed pretty much after he goes off to war. She remarries someone and stays, and then they are married for the next, 60 years. And then he dies. And then she dies. And there is this, like a way station that everybody goes to process, okay, their life is finished now. Now they get to decide what they want to do. Do they want to spend eternity in Paris? Do they want to spend eternity, basically almost anything they want to do? Well, she now has two ex-husbands, and she needs to decide. She can't have both. She needs to decide which one. There's humor in it. I personally, I don't think enough, but it's just that notion. You're dead. You have two spouses. You need to pick one. I won't tell you how it ends. It was enjoyable.
I used to have a dream where David, my husband, who was married for 43 years, and his wife unfortunately died. And when we were first married, I used to have this dream that she really wasn't dead, or she somehow comes back to life, and he has to decide which wife he's going to be with.
Oh, that's crazy. Okay.
Isn't it?
That's this movie. Yes.
Yeah. Well, except it was my dream, and it wasn't a good dream because I guess in my insecure brain that he wasn't going to pick me. But so far that hasn't happened, so.
Well, that's good.
Well, for me, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, for our first half, Susan Fitzgerald profiled people in their 90s and published their tips for longevity and living well. Since I'm confident that I will one day be an octopus or an octogenarian, old. I'm looking
An octomom?
Yes, an octomom. the mother of an octopus or an octogenarian. Yeah, right. I'm looking to hedge my bet by learning from others how they made this milestone. We continue this week with Elaine Scherer, age 91, whose defining characteristic is staying connected. Elaine Scherer fell into a funk after her last sibling died this past spring. The oldest of five, she had experienced other painful losses, including that of her adult daughter. But the death of her sister Molly hit especially hard. Scherer, normally an on the go person, felt lackluster and kept more to herself at her senior community in suburban Philadelphia. Quote, I had no desire to do anything, she says. Luckily, a friend noticed the change and suggested that Scherer attend a faith-based ministry to talk about her grief and other concerns. Scherer did so, and it made a tremendous difference. That Scherer sought help from someone is not surprising, given that personal connections have always been important to her. She studied French in college and attended the University of Lyon in France on a Fulbright scholarship. She made good friends there and returned to the country more than a dozen times. At the community where she now lives, she coordinated a foreign affairs discussion called Great Decisions and doubled participation. Some of Scherer's longtime activities fell by the wayside during the pandemic, including involvement in her church, where she was a lector for many years. But the pandemic inspired new traditions, such as Fireside Thursdays, group gatherings outside with hors d'oeuvres and wine. For 23 years, Scherer gave tours of the Philadelphia Museum of Art, some in French. She became a docent at the museum after a career that included teaching, computers, and working with actuaries. Although 19th century European art was her specialty in the museum, quote, when I had tours for French visitors, I often guided them through the American wing because I felt that it was important for people coming to this country to see that we had good artists, she says. Scherer, who divorced when her two children were grown, played tennis into her 80s and still likes to swim and walk her dog. She lives independently and still drives, although she doesn't really enjoy driving anymore. Other than having a pacemaker and having experienced some broken bones, she is in good health. I can't do what I did 5 years ago, she said, and I've accepted that I'm using a cane. For peace of mind, she tries to limit how much she watches the news, preferring police dramas and public television. As for making the most of later life, Scherer says, my advice would be go out and be with other people. Don't hibernate in your room. Our funeral lunch dip, in honor of Elaine's French connections, is French onion dip. Served with potato or pretzel chips, this dip will take you back to your childhood sleepovers with friends. Bon appetit! Please go to our webpage for this week's recipe and additional resources for this program. This is the part where we ask for your financial support. Your tax-deductible gift will go directly to supporting our nonprofit journalism so that we can remain accessible to everyone. You can donate at www.everyonedies.org. That's every, the number one, dies. Or at our site on Patreon under Everyone Dies. Marianne?
Thanks, Charlie. Change starts with one person, and in the case of Dry January, this is literally true. Dry January is a temporary alcohol abstinence challenge where participants commit to abstaining from drinking alcohol for 1 month. In 2011, Emily Robinson was training for her first half marathon. After a booze-fueled New Year's Eve, she woke up on New Year's Day feeling less than her best and decided to give up drinking for the rest of the month. Later that year, she started working at Alcohol Change UK, and in 2013, Dry January had its official kickoff with 4,000 people participating. Participation in 2025 was up to 20,000. Alcohol Change UK supports nonprofit fundraising, research about the effects of alcohol, and education about alcohol use. Next week, we're going to focus on the potential health risks of drinking. But this week, we're going to mix things up a bit and start with the benefits of not drinking. We can point out the obvious benefits: consuming fewer calories, saving money, not having to go to DUI school. But the reality is, the benefits of not drinking are linking to improved psychological and physical health and include weight loss, lower blood sugar and blood pressure, better mood, and improved sleep. Even people who just reduced their alcohol use for the month, called Damp January, experienced benefits. Strauger and colleagues published a paper in 2025 summarizing the findings of 16 research studies about dry January. Their findings included benefits of alcohol reduction and well-being despite whether participants fully abstained. Alcohol Change UK has supported resources such as emails, text messages, and the Try Dry app, which I have links for all of that in the show notes, with as many as 96% of Dry January participants signing up. Participants in Dry January tend to report greater concern about their drinking and lower psychological well-being at the start of January than adults in a comparison study of past month drinkers from the general population. Compared to this general population drinker sample, Dry January participants tend to report having higher incomes, completing university education, being female, and being younger. Dry January participants reported decreased drinking and self-reported psychological benefits included greater mental well-being, higher levels of general and drink refusal self-efficacy, more positive feelings, a greater sense of control, greater physical well-being, weight loss, improved sleep quality, greater energy, and greater concentration, and greater happiness. The one self-reported negative effect of participating in Dry January was that abstaining individuals reported less social contact than those who continued to drink. Positive biological changes were observed among those who remained abstinent from alcohol for 1 month, include improved insulin resistance, blood pressure, growth factors, that's the types of chemicals that support the growth of vascular structure, and liver function, as well as decreases in liver fat, blood glucose, and weight. The research findings documented that up to 6 months later, Dry January participants reported decreased drinking frequency, reduced drunkenness, and lower alcohol consumption. If, as you're listening to this, you're thinking you just might be sober curious and would like to participate in Dry January, we have some helpful hints to help you get through the last 2 weeks of the month, so you can start now. Also, you can be dry for any month of the year you choose. There's no magic about January except for the thousands of people participating at the same time who can help support you. First, keep track of when and how much you drink. You can go old school and use a notebook, or use your Notes app on your phone, or the digital tracking app from Alcohol Change UK. Again, links are in the show notes. Include notes about your mood, energy level, and how much money you're saving abstaining from alcohol. Next, make social choices that support your Dry January goal. If you're in a situation of pressure to drink, you can say, hey, I'm participating in Dry January, which can take the pressure off and let your friends support your efforts to start the year healthier. Ask your drinking buddy to be your Dry January buddy. If they are not interested, you can ask another friend or family member to join you or connect with the Dry January group online. Fourth, stay busy. Explore activities that don't involve drinking. Take a class at your local art museum, join a Zumba class or a book club. Volunteer at a nonprofit organization. We would love your help. Lastly, find non-alcoholic alternatives to your usual drinking habits. Try new mocktails, different flavored waters, or fancy coffees. If you're wondering whether taking a break from alcohol might tell you something about yourself, think of this as an invitation, not a challenge. You don't have to quit forever. do it perfectly, or even do it in January. A pause can be enough to notice what helps, what changes, and what you want to carry forward. And sometimes that kind of awareness is the most meaningful outcome of all. For your consideration, when alcohol isn't a part of the picture, what do you notice helps you cope, connect, or unwind? Write us at mail@everyonedies.org. That's EVERY, the number one, dies.org, and let us know your thoughts. And I don't know, Charlie, can we start with you? When alcohol isn't in the picture, what do you notice that helps you cope, connect, or unwind?
Nothing. Nothing changes. I hear what you're saying. I agree with you, but I think every person is an individual. For me, it's always about moderation. For me, I know I make jokes all the time about drinking and different cocktails, which I enjoy very much. But I may have a martini and then not touch anything for several days, and then I might have two or three drinks, you know, different days of the week, and I everything is just in moderation. I enjoy having a drink. I enjoy just um, drinking and then hanging out with people, and things just spontaneously erupt. I do understand what you're saying, and I do believe that some people just don't control themselves, and they need something to numb whatever is going on in their lives. And if that's what an individual needs, everything you're saying, yeah, I agree with. You need to moderate. You need to set limits on yourself. Um, that that's what I feel.
Well, that's, and I think maybe being in New York, it's more, I don't know, you can tell me, more part of the culture or of the society to be able to pop into a corner bar. You're doing a lot more walking and a lot more kind of being, your feet on the street. And so there's probably a lot more opportunities to socialize in those situations. Like for me, I
Mhm.
live out in the middle of nowhere with no neighbors and, you know, walk, but you can walk and maybe see a moose or a deer, but you're not going to see people or a bar to pop in and have a drink and visit with people. So it's less of a, for me, it's less of a thing, like we have alcohol in the house, and I don't know, I'd personally rather eat my carbs than drink them. So if somebody says, "Do you want a glass of wine or do you want a piece of bread with butter?" I'm always going to go for the bread with butter.
Yeah. What you had mentioned about you know people. How did you put it about people drinking alcohol in a societal way? Social contact and everything like that. Yeah, fewer people in general are more people are drinking less. I mean, statistically, that's out there. Um, but yeah, I don't know. For me, like I said, everything is in moderation, and also too with just with going out and yeah, New York obviously is a big city, but I just notice in other places too. Smaller cities, towns. Yeah, I guess with me, I don't understand if someone keeps drinking and drinking any pleasure in that. But I know people do that because they try to forget or they don't want to deal with things. Uh, People tend to be more isolated, and especially men now just don't seem to be able a lot of times just to start a conversation with other men. Um, yeah, so it's easier than just to drink or isolate. But I do notice with women, they just seem more at ease, just hanging out, maybe having drinks, maybe not, but just hanging out. I think it's also a societal thing. Uh, that, yeah.
And maybe women prefer to, have coffee and donuts or, you know,
Well, not the women I know, but yeah.
wow.
But I see your point. Yeah, it just depends on the person. Yeah.
Now we just went for Christmas holiday, took our youngest daughter and went to an all-inclusive resort, which means all the food you can eat and all the booze you can drink.
Hmm.
And as I will totally contradict what I just said, um, I mean, there were days in between where I wouldn't drink anything at all, but then there were days where, like, Julie and I would walk around the pool, and each lap around the pool, we'd stop at the bar and get another drink.
I understand that. Yes.
And and that's really like the only place that I would say, and we'll talk next week more about alcohol itself and binge drinking and that kind of thing. And there's a lot of kind of behaviors that are beginning to show up in terms of alcohol use, but certainly you saw that at especially the swim up bar where you know it's hot, it's sunny, you're relaxed. It's like, oh, and the bartender says, "Oh, do you want another one?" It's like, "Yeah, sure. It's 9 in the morning, but who cares?"
It's 9 in the morning. I have the whole day to sleep it off, and then wake up in the afternoon and start over again. Yes,
That's right.
yes,
That's
there we
right. You
are.
can.
It's like,
And then we met some
mhm.
people from. There were a lot of people from Canada at this one at the resort we were at, and we were talking to this woman and her aunt, and they said, "Oh, can we buy you a drink?" And we laughed. We said, "Sure." And they were drinking shots of tequila, and I don't do shots of anything.
Mhm.
Um, and so we're standing at the bar, did a couple shots with them. It's like, God, this is, you
Yeah.
know,
No. I understand.
so far off
I
my life.
I get that.
But
Yeah.
if once a year, you meet people from Canada and do a couple shots, is that really gonna kill you? It might, but you know.
Yeah. And I understand. When I was younger, yes, I understood the whole concept of shots, and I enjoyed it very much. But now, no, I just rather again have a martini or an old fashioned or a Manhattan in front of me, and just enjoy that. I have a book with me, or I'm writing something, or start conversations with people. Um, yeah, I can't quite know how to phrase that, but it's just the pleasure of that moment. And again, then I might go for the next hour just sipping on this one martini, or in an hour I might have knocked back two and starting number three. If, I don't. It just depends on that situation. And again, I don't recommend that for everybody, but it's just for me that works. But yeah, most of the time I'm just thinking here. Most of the time, it's when I'm out. I mean, I will have a drink once in a while here at home, but yeah, it's just for me, it's a societal thing. And I understand for, too many people are abusing it, and others are just like walking away from booze. Um, so, yeah, to each his own.
Well, stay tuned for next week when we kind of go into the details of alcohol use and some of the new research that's coming out that might make people kind of rethink if their drinking habits. And I know it's backwards to talk about dry January, but I wanted us to at least give people, if you wanted to do
Oh, absolutely. Options all the time.
dry end of
Absolutely.
January, you could still participate.
And as you say about about drinking and dry January. It doesn't have to be January. It can be dry April or whenever the thing is. The other thing, it reminded me of New Year's resolutions. And okay, so beginning January 1st, I'm going to do this. Now, you can make a resolution and resolve to do something different anytime when you're ready for it. It doesn't have to be January 1st. And again, what I've seen is that a lot of people, resolve to do something January 1st, and then January 5th comes along and suddenly it all falls apart.
Well, and New Year's resolutions are
Mhm.
supposed to be what you resolve to do for the whole year,
Exactly.
where dry January is for 1 month,
Right.
and having the support of the rest of people who are doing dry January, something to be said for that. Where if you've
Mhm.
got a whole group of your
Yes.
friends who
Yeah.
say, we're not drinking this month, we're going bowling or something else to be together, then it's got to be easier that way.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Okay. For our third half, from Leaving Time by Jody Picoult. My father died last year, Thomas said. I still look for him in crowds. He shrugged. I think grief is like a really ugly couch. It never goes away. You can decorate around it. You can slap a doily on top of it. You can push it to the corner of the room. But eventually, you learn to live with it. Somehow, I thought, elephants had taken it a step further. They didn't grimace every time they entered the room and saw the couch. They said, remember how many good memories we had here? And they sat for just a little while before moving elsewhere. Thus ends this week's episode. Please stay tuned for the continuing saga of Everyone Dies, and thank you for listening. You can find most episodes from our series about grief on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app. Follow and subscribe to the show. Share it with someone who needs a little hope today. This is Charlie Navarrete. And from Jim Morrison, lead man of The Doors, no one gets out alive.
And I'm Marianne Matzo, and we'll see you next week. Remember, every day is a gift.
This podcast does not provide medical advice. All discussion on this podcast, such as treatments, dosages, outcomes, charts, patient profiles, advice, messages, and any other discussion are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Always seek the advice of your primary care practitioner or other qualified health providers with any questions that you may have regarding your health. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard from this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. Everyone Dies does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, practitioners, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned in this podcast. Reliance on any information provided in this podcast by persons appearing on this podcast at the invitation of Everyone Dies or by other members is solely at your own risk.